So just firstly, I think from Public Works and Infrastructure, our key focus over the last 3 months has been ascertaining what our contribution can be to growth in this country and job creation. We are the single largest landlord owner in the country with 88,000 buildings and 5 million hectares of land. Those assets are not being used for economic growth. They are not being used for public good. And so our task has been is to start to look at what are the most valuable of our assets, how can we start to package those, to leverage capital to be put into our infrastructure projects. We also have to understand that the state cannot continue to carry as many properties as it does. It is unsustainable, and it is unrealistic, and it is a burden to people in suburbs or townships or wherever they may be, where these properties are attracting crime, are being invaded, or are being hijacked. And that's why we sought to create technical teams with Tshwane, with eThekwini, and Cape Town to start to look at how can we either transfer land or properties to those cities that they may wish to use for social housing or for safe spaces or whatever they may choose. And also, how can we create lines of responsibilities to be able to protect properties in those municipalities. And those are really starting to take shape, and we are doing some good work there. We have also become very focused on reclaiming what we have lost. So properties that have been invaded, properties that are being illegally occupied. We have already, in the last month, very quickly, in 3 months, we were able to get orders, eviction orders on 2 properties that we were able to then take back, and they have until the 17th to leave those properties. On the infrastructure side, infrastructure in South Africa is incredibly disorganized and fragmented. We must make sure that we have a consolidated and focused infrastructure plan in this country. Everyone is just left up to do whatever they want and how they want it. We have 950 billion rand within the medium-term expenditure framework that is allocated to infrastructure, and I'm sure that South Africa would agree that those results linked to that value is incredibly indifferent. Infrastructure in municipalities has by and large collapsed and ceased to be built. Those are not my views, or they are my views, but they are actually supported by findings of the Auditor General. So what we have said is that we want to use an entity called Infrastructure South Africa that has people who are a lot cleverer than I am to plan, prepare, and package infrastructure programs for municipalities, for various other entities, because they are able to crowd in private sector investment. And so theoretically, if we were able to get 200 billion rand out of the MTF infrastructure plan, we could leverage R1 trillion worth of infrastructure build in the country over the next 5 years. That makes sense. And so we have begun those discussions. We have put a policy paper together that is called the 8 Pillars of Infrastructure Reform, and it is going to require an all-of-government approach to work. But if we get it right, and the financing that we have been able to have discussions around in London last week and China 3 weeks ago is incredibly promising. The Asian Infrastructure Bank that we are a member of for the last 8 years, we have never received a single dollar out of them. They will be coming to South Africa next month for the first time in 8 years to conduct their country review of South Africa with the intention to start funding infrastructure projects. That hasn't happened in 8 years. That is potentially very important to us. And so we've been working hard on those connections with funders, with bankers, and with other institutions. On the technical committee, if I can just touch on that, I think that it comes at the right time because it's allowed ministers in cabinet to get to know one another, understand what our bona fides are, that we really are committed to this thing. And the success of the technical committee is not going to be done in the bright lights of press conferences, but it's going to be done in the personal relationships that we have been able to build up over the last 3 months. And so a colleague of mine and counterpart of mine, Minister Marapin Ramakgopa, we have over the last while been working on some thoughts and ideas of how this technical committee can work, which will be chaired by the Deputy President. And one of the first orders of business has to be Bella and the NHI. And those are going to be tough discussions. And South Africa should not be scared of the noise that is created around disagreement. We are not a kumbaya government. We are a government that has to contest ideas. We're a government that has to fight for policy that advances this country. But we also need to be given the space in the technical committee to be able to deal with some of these very complex issues where we have mandates from our parties and find out how we find solutions. And I'm confident that when we come into that committee, I think it meets on Wednesday for the first time next week, we need to outline what our work program is. We need to outline what the terms of reference is and exactly what the rules of engagement are. So each party feels that they are able to bring their issues to the table, that there are no predetermined outcomes in that committee, but that there is a genuine sense of willingness to negotiate, to compromise, and to put the country first.
DA at Work, rescuing South Africa.